2NURFM, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
2NURFM 103.7. It is time to have a look at all things happening in the world of education. We do that with Professor John Fischetti from the University of Newcastle. Good morning, John. Today's talk, it's kind of all about choice, and when it comes to what school the kids and grandkids are going to head off to, there seems to be a lot more choice or a lot of things available for parents now.
That's
Good morning.
right, Mark. Good morning. For any of you who are just getting ready to finish those early childhood years and you're considering primary or transitioning to secondary schools, it's a big choice. Many people have already made the decision for next year, but they're already in line if you're looking to 2020 to make those decisions. You want your vision clear. You want to be able to make the right choice. What's interesting, back in the day, it was probably the school down the street from you and or the Catholic school option, or maybe there was an independent school that your parents had gone to.
I don't know about down the street. It was a 1.5 kilometre bicycle ride up and down a hill for me is what it was.
It was uphill both ways in the snow,
You got it both ways.
Yes, yeah. It probably was uphill both ways.
But it was still the closest.
Yeah, so most families are choosing that in the past, and still that's a viable option. But I think right now there's philosophically different approaches, even in government schools, that are within the same suburb or within the same precinct in so respect. So I think it's really important that parents plan ahead enough that they actually get some information on whether that philosophy that they believe is the one that the school is perpetuating.
So this really becomes a whole added layer of consideration that parents have to think about. Like you said, it's not just, well, we live here, so the closest primary school is down the street, and then the high school is a kilometre that way, so that's where we go. There is all the independent schools, Catholic schools, which you mentioned, and sort of other specialist schools that sort of are geared for like some are academic, some are sport, some are art.
Right, and I think it would start if you were sending your child to kindy next year. Would you want a school that was primarily an academic focus with literacy and numeracy embedded right from the start to give your child that sort of head start in the fast lane of academics? Would you rather it be a play-based, child-centered approach with innovation and certainly literacy and numeracy, but not worrying about the NAPLAN and the test and what's going to be next? You want your child to be happy, safe, secure, curious. You don't want that sort of teased away from them. Some schools are actually very academically rigorous, almost from years 3 and 4. In going through the process.
So here's the thing on that. By the time you're selecting high school, the kids have had, 11 to 13 years of life, so you kind of got a bit of an idea of where they may be headed. But when we're talking those early school years, I mean, how do you make that? How do you look and say, my kid's 5, I think they're going to be academically focused, or they're going to be play focused? So how can you do it at that age?
Well, you really want to keep all open options for your child. You want them to be intellectually curious. You want them to look ahead and enjoy school, but you want them to be challenged, but not challenged in a way that makes them discouraged. And I think what's tricky today is there was a time when you would know X school is a good school. I've heard of that school as good. What that meant is kids were generally compliant. Most kids did really well on tests, and those kids went on to either TAFE or the uni or the military or to start their business. There was some success after. What's tricky is the rules have changed. And, in a lot of our previous conversation, we talked about what's next and how the economy's changed, the ability to be flexible, the nimble's changed. So schools that have those things which embed curiosity and critical thinking and problem solving and collaboration, which might be the number one skill of the 21st century, parents are looking more for those things as well, not just the traditional academics, which makes it kind of confusing in the marketplace. It's beyond just the selective schools at the secondary level. It's the kind of culture of the school which helps children sort of feel good about themselves. One way to think about it is, do you as your child need to get ready for school? Or is the school getting ready for your child? And there's some schools, if you're so smart, figure it out as their strategy. And other schools, it's, we'll adopt to your child's needs. And I think some parents are choosing that second option more and more and looking for schools that are more flexible to meet the individual needs of their kids.
It's interesting you look at that as the way that we look at it now, instead of, that's a good or that's not a good school, because when I was in school, that was the bad school or whatever. If you could still focus on that as your primary motivator, that changes. Because I guess all schools don't,
right.
Well, here's where we start, and you get new principal, new teachers, and everyone wants to not be seen as that. So you could be sort of discounting a school that is a perfect fit based on something from 10 or 20 years ago.
Absolutely right. That reputation has a lag, doesn't it? So I think the biggest tip for today will be that parents do have the chance to contact the school and find out when they have some visit days, some mornings. Some schools are open to come visit a class. Some schools are open for a parent meeting with the principal or the deputies or the executive. Because I think what you want to do is match your needs, your child's needs, and the school, and make that a really good triangle relationship, not just assume that that school is going to be right based on the historical understanding of what it was and the historical definition of success. If most of the jobs that those children will be in or careers that they're going to be in haven't even been invented yet, whatever lingo you might read in the funny papers, then you really do want to say, I want my child to be very, very inspired and excited and happy, but I want them to be challenged, but in a way that works for them. Go shop around, visit those schools, make that decision as if your child's education depended on it, because it actually does. So inside the government sector, lots of choice. Inside the Catholic schools, not every Catholic school is the same. And in the independent schools, there's lots of philosophies that promote academic rigor traditionally, and others which are very, very progressive and excitingly so. So I think you'll just want to make sure you put it on your to-do list well in advance, so you're making a comfortable decision, and then stay in communication with that school. It's not an easy choice, but I think that's what's good about it now. Like the cereal aisle at the supermarket, there's lots of options for you out there.
And whichever option you choose, you know that none of them will reference the term funny papers, as John did a couple of minutes ago, for those looking through the comics still. We'll start where we finished, finish where we started, I guess. Just another layer of consideration for parents to be wary of, or to be mindful of.
And don't hesitate to visit. Don't be shy to contact the school. The principals usually have days set up just for that purpose.
As always, a good chat with our Professor of Education, John Fischetti, right here at 2NURFM 103.7.